Hello everyone, welcome to K Diagnostics. Dio here. Today we have a 2008 Chevy Express with a 6.0 liter. The customer complaint on this van is that the check engine light remains on. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna confirm the customer's complaint. After confirming the customer's complaint, we're gonna connect the scan tool to the car so we can find out what kind of trouble codes we have in memory. So I'm gonna start the van. So as you can see, the van is running, the check engine light remained on. The customer also stated that the fuel gauge is showing empty all the time. So the fuel gauge right there doesn't move, it shows empty. So customer's complaint confirmed. So now I'm gonna turn off the van and connect the scan tool to it so we can see what kind of trouble codes we have in memory. Alright, so I got my scan tool connected to the van. So let's go to engine, codes menu, display codes, DTC display, and here are the trouble codes we have in the engine control module. We have 6 trouble codes. We have P0128, P0137, P0452, P0455, and then P0461 and P0463. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna fix all these codes. These two are related, okay? This is gonna cause this one, or this one is gonna cause this one to come up. This one also, this evap system large leak, is the wrong fuel cap was installed on this van. So I'm gonna ignore this one for now. This one can sort of be caused by this one underneath here, and then we will tackle these ones later. So in this video we're gonna tackle these 2 codes first, and then I will either continue or we can make other separate videos for these codes because the customer wants us to fix everything while this van is here. Alright, so I'm gonna start by dealing with the fuel gauge that's showing full all the time. Okay, I'm sorry, the fuel gauge is showing empty. Okay, the fuel gauge is showing empty all the time. So now the issue could be the fuel sending unit in the tank or the cluster. Knowing that we have a P0461 in memory, so I believe our issue is not with the gauge, it is with the fuel sending unit inside the fuel tank. So what I need to do is I can look this code up to just familiarize myself with this trouble code. I can click on diagnose here and get some info. So we have some top repairs here for this P0461. So, and here these are some of the suggestions that we get from Snap-on. Here it says it most likely, so when you have this trouble code, it most likely a fuel pump, so a fuel sending unit, because I believe you replace the whole unit together with the pump. So fuel pump or replace fuel level sensor. So basically the issue lies somewhere in the tank. Okay, so easy peasy. So at this point what I need to do is, I believe this is a 4-wire fuel sending unit connector. There should be 2 wires for the fuel pump and then 2 other wires for the fuel level sensor inside the fuel tank. So let's look at the wiring diagram now so we can see which one is a signal wire or which one is a return wire, so we can know what kind of tests we're gonna do. So basically this is a 3500. I'm gonna look at the wiring diagram right now. This is the fuel sending unit, and then this is the pressure, the fuel tank pressure sensor. So if I highlight these wires, so this here is the signal return or the ground. So if we follow this wire here, we can see it is going back to the engine computer. And here it says I hope you can see it says low reference. So this tan wire is the ground, and then this purple wire here is the signal. Okay, this is the signal coming from the computer, because if we scroll down, we will realize that this other wire also goes to the computer. This wire right here, this one that's just highlighted, it goes to the computer, and it says fuel level sensor. Okay, so this fuel sending unit receives its power and ground from the engine computer. All right, and this ground is shared with the fuel pressure sensor. Okay, this fuel pressure sensor shares the ground with this fuel level sensor, and this here is the power and the ground for the fuel pump itself. All right, so now what we need to do is we have to go under the van and do some checks at this connector. So we're gonna go under the van, and hopefully we can get access to this electrical connector on the top of the fuel sending unit. So it's got 4 wires. There's a tan wire, a purple wire, a gray wire, and a black wire. So we're gonna focus on these 2 wires, the tan wire and the purple wire. Okay, we're gonna back probe these 2 wires. This is a ground, so it's a low reference. We should have around 100 millivolts on this, and then this purple wire we should have, I don't know, I didn't look up the reference voltage on this one, but I believe it is 5 volts. So we should see 5 volts on this wire, and then about 100 millivolts on this. If we do, then what I'm gonna do is, after making sure we have 5 volts on this wire and then 100 millivolts on this, since it's a low reference, which means a ground, I'm gonna use a test light to bypass this sensor here. Okay, this fuel level sensor. And after bypassing this with the test light, if my fuel gauge in the dashboard reads full, or if just it moves like quarter tank, that would tell me that the issue is inside the tank. And then we can definitely make a call about the fuel sending unit. And the fuel sending unit comes with the fuel pump, so we have to replace this whole unit, which I'm suspecting is going to be the issue. Right here, even with the engine running, our van is still showing empty. I know this van is not empty because I was tapping on the fuel tank. It sounds like it has a lot of fuel in it. So right here, the gauge is showing empty. All right, so now let's go under the van and do our test. Here is the fuel sending unit, and we have 2 connectors right here. There's this one. I'm gonna connect it. This is the main connector for the fuel pump, and here it is. Hopefully you guys can see these wire colors. There is the black wire and the gray wire, and then these 2 small gauge wires in the center are the wires for the fuel level sensor. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, I think this wire is long enough, so let me push it up here. So I'm going to back probe these 2 wires here. So I'm gonna back probe this. The purple wire is our reference sensor, so the signal is on this wire, so we should have 5 volts on this, and then the other one is the ground. So I'm gonna back probe these 2 wires and bring you guys back up. Alright, so I back probe this signal wire, and we are reading 5 volts right here on the multimeter. So that's the purple wire. So now I'm gonna back probe the 10 wire, the low reference, the ground wire, to see what we're gonna read there. Alright, so right here, I'm back probing the 10 wire now. So I just moved my back probe from the purple wire to the 10 wire. So now let's see what we're reading on the multimeter. So right here, we are reading, well, 0.009 volt. So which is a good ground. Our ground is not bad, so our wiring is most likely good. So now I'm gonna do the bypass test. Okay, so now I'm gonna bypass this fuel level sensor inside the tank with a test light. So I'm going to connect the test light between the 10 wire and the purple wire. So I'm going to back probe the other wire and put a test light across and see what's going to happen. So I'll do that and bring you guys back up. Alright, so I did put a test light across those two wires and cycle the key. What is it showing now? Empty. Still showing empty? Alright, so I did put a test light across these two wires and our gauge in the dash is still showing empty. So I think I need to clear the codes. Can you give me that scanner here? Yeah. Let's erase all the trouble codes and see what happens. Let me erase the trouble codes and see if this bypass test is gonna work. So let's go back. Let's do clear codes. Let's clear all the codes. Let me see if there's any trouble code here. No codes present. That's good. Alright, so now we're gonna cycle the key and see what happens. Still reading empty? Nope, now it's reading full. It's reading full? So it's reading full now. That's awesome. You know what happened? Okay, I'll tell you what happened. So actually I am going to, let me come up to the van and just show everybody here what the gauge is showing now. Alright, so now I'm gonna go inside the van and show you guys what the fuel gauge is reading now. Alright guys, so I'm back here inside the van, and as you can see with the test light across the 10 wire and the purple wire, our fuel gauge is now reading over half a tank. Okay, so this means our wiring is good. The issue is the fuel sending unit inside the tank. So now we have to drop the tank and replace the fuel sending unit. This is how you test a fuel sending unit. If your fuel gauge is showing empty all the time, this is the test you do to find out if your issue is the fuel sending unit or the wiring. Okay, in this case our wiring is good. So we're gonna drop the tank and replace the fuel sending unit, and after doing that, this should be good. As you can see now, it's reading full all the time. Alright, so now we're gonna disconnect our test light. Once we disconnect the test light from the two wires, you'll see it's gonna be reading empty all the time. Alright, so I'm gonna give you a last shot of the bypass test I just did. So the test light is now bypassing the fuel level sensor inside the tank. As you can see, I'm bypassing the fuel level sensor with this test light. So I back probe the 10 wire and the purple wire with those two black back probes there. So the red wire there is going on one side of the test light, and then the black wire is going on the other side of the test light. Okay, so as I did that, my fuel gauge was reading full. So now I'm going to disconnect this. I'm just going to disconnect one end of the test light. Okay, so after I disconnect this, my fuel gauge should be reading empty right now. So let's go inside the van and see if our fuel gauge is going to be reading empty now. Alright, so I'm here back in the van. We were reading full just a moment ago, so now we're reading empty. We're reading empty because I disconnected that other wire from the test light. Okay, so we were able to duplicate the fault. Now I feel confident replacing the fuel sending unit inside the tank. So the issue is the unit itself, and the unit is a combination of the fuel pump and the fuel level sensor. I'm gonna order the unit and then replace it. I'm not gonna film replacing the sending unit, but I just wanted to show you how you can test and make a definitive call about this fuel sending unit. So I'm gonna leave it right here. I hope you like this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumb down. Right? If you do, you gotta tell me why. If this is your first time here, subscribe to my YouTube channel, K Diagnostics. If you have any comments, questions, criticism, leave them in the comment box. While you're down there, ring the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.